I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You are watching Quests and Answers, where we go on a quest to find your answers. Today we're talking about the Druid class in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Very special guest here, our resident Druid, GW.
Hey yo.
Welcome, sir. So let's dive in. Ooh, where do we start? So the first question I have for you is, why pick a Druid? Of all the classes and things to play, and things that are easy or even more complicated, and Druid is a whole beast on its own. Why choose a Druid even to begin with?
So speaking from someone who is still technically a noob to D&D, my very first character was, a druid. My druid that I played on, our show. Um, the reason why I went with something like a druid, even though it was like kind of complicated and everything, was because I knew what I wanted. I had in mind that I wanted to be a very kind of natural based person. Like my original thought was, because I'm always been one who's been like really kind of close with like the element of like lightning and stuff and storms and everything. So I was like, okay, I want to be like an elven male storm, basically from X-Men. So that's where I started. I wanted to kind of like rain down chaos from the sky. And then, but at the same time, I was really into Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love elemental stuff and them combining, physical moves with, the element and things like that. So I wanted to be an elemental kind of based person.
Yeah.
So when I was looking through all the classes, looking through Wizard, looking through Sorcerer, looking through all of that, when I landed on Druid, I was like, oh, and I kept reading about all the things and like kind of like their spells and like, their one with nature. And I was like, this is it. This is it. I know nothing about Druids, but I know this is what I want. I'm going to read on it and we're going to make it happen. So that's kind of how I started. And on top of that, because everything, like I said, that was like the first step in what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But me, I am a very spontaneous, sporadic kind of person, like just in general. Yeah. I'm not really one for routine. I like to switch it up, try new things and whatever. And, druids, because they have access to their entire spell list and they can switch daily, I was like, oh, I don't have to like sit here and worry about if I have the right spells, because I can literally day by day just be like, okay, what's the situation? Where are we going? And just kind of switch it up like that. I literally had a number of spell lists. I was like, if we're going to a dungeon, this. If we're going to a swamp, this and this and that. Yeah. So that for me, that fluidity, that freedom, and still being kind of like one with nature is what really sold it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had someone come up to you and say, hey, GW, I want to be a druid, what's a good circle to choose for a noob? What would you...
For a noob.
Because there's some really good ones too, some new ones that are pretty wild.
Yeah, they are really cool. For a noob, I would say, so I have two answers. One, know what you want and visualize in your mind what you see your character doing, like in a fight or something. When you can visualize what they are doing, what kind of magic they have or whatever, then it's easier to kind of like go down the list of different druid subclasses and be like, oh, this sounds like the most like this. And even if you don't have like, there's not like a specific class that completely embodies what you were thinking, you can always flavor it to embody what it is that you're saying. Like, even though you're casting this spell, you can cast it with a flavoring of the sea or the flavoring of rocks or something like that to more embody you. So that's my answer number one. Number two is, if you are beginning and you're unsure of how you want things to be, I would say, I try to not put it in this way, but I will say that the moon, the circle of the moon, is kind of like the easy way out.
Yeah.
I say that just because, to me, it's the simplest of all druids. Like their focus is shape shifting.
Yeah.
So they focus on like just like turning into a beast and fighting rather than kind of hardcore spells and stuff like that. So for a beginner, I would say either A, know what you like, visualize what you see in your head, then pick from that class, or for an easier, like kind of like tread into the water, go Moon Druid and this kind of feel it out as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, Moon Druid is if you want to be a druid that is just focused on shape changing and you can also kind of do spells, that is absolutely the way to go. And then knowing what you want, I think Circle of the Land is the other one, the next step up, because everything else is really flavor. I have a Circle of Stars druid that I've built that looks.
Chris, you do? That was okay. So, well, you know what? We'll talk. Well,
Yes.
there's a reason why
Yes.
I'm kind of excited you just said that, but we'll talk.
Well, because it depends on the campaign. Because I have one option where he is several levels of Artificer, and the rest is Star Druid. Because Artificers and trinkets and constellate, like, it just makes sense. I mean, I know it's
Yes,
intelligence and
yes.
wisdom, but still, it makes sense.
It does. It does.
And he's a gnome, so it makes sense. It's perfect. But I have other ideas too. But the star and spores and wildfire and shepherd. What's the other one? I feel like I'm missing one.
There's dreams.
Dreams. That's the other one. Yeah. So
And there's probably like a couple other ones.
yeah. So it's dreams, it's spores, shepherds, stars, and
Seasons.
wildfire.
There's a new druid of seasons, which is really, really interesting.
Oh, okay. I don't see that on D&D Beyond. But yeah. Is that a UA thing?
No, it's not UA. It's in one of the books. I forget which one exactly. But I was reading it earlier, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting because what they do is besides like, the power, the elemental powers, they also dip into life and death, because it's kind of like a seasonal, like death, rebirth kind of thing, which is also really interesting.
I see. Yeah, so there's a lot of fun circles to choose from, but I think we hit the nail on the head with, starting with Moon Druid because you want a wild shape and if that's your focus, great. If you want to try Druid without the focus of wild shape, then Land is definitely your next best thing. So when you're looking at all of the abilities that Druids have now, because you can still do wild shape at a little nerfed way with all of the other circles versus Moon. Moon gets a little beefed up a little bit. But what are some of your favorite abilities that Druids can do that other classes can't? And it could be from any circle, just, some of your favorite, ability bumps and features and things like that. Features and traits.
So just because of kind of like the player that I am and kind of how I built my own Druid, I really gotta say, because I go hardcore like elemental magic power. I go hardcore elemental power. So the fact that land druids can get back magic during a short rest is huge. Not only that, they get an extra 1 or 2 cantrips. Not only that, each land type in the land circle have a set number of spells that they can always have prepared. Like it's just always there. It doesn't take up any of their spell slots. It's that they always have it there if they ever want it. And one of the things for me that of course I needed for my druid was call lightning to make storms. And so the circle of the forest is the one where you always have that one prepared. And a couple other things like, divination. There's certain things that certain land druids have that other druids can't get because it's not technically a druid spell. So I would just say the extra spells, because I love options. The getting power back on a short rest, because Lord knows, especially in your games, you need to be piled up on magic or whatever you can do. So I would say that those would be probably my favorites. My favorite abilities.
Absolutely. I mean, with all the breakdowns that we've done with all the other classes, and Druid still being one of my favorite, and I've never played a Druid.
You have.
You
have played a Druid.
When?
You played a Druid barbarian.
Oh, I guess that counts. But he was a Moon Druid. He was a barbarian. Yes, it counts. He was a barbarian.
I trained you. It counts.
You did. He was a 5-level totem bear barbarian and a 3-level moon druid. So yes, that does count. But it was just to get extra HP. So like his mentality was barbarian for sure. But when you look at like all the ability features, it's very minimal. Like you look at like fighter or rogue, it's like every level is like you get all these things. Druid, it's very simple. Wild shape improvement, ability score bump, Druid Circle feature. Like, that's it. And you get all these cool things that Druid. So in that regard, it's simple, which helps balance it, because the fucking spells and all the things that you can do is like overwhelming. So it's like, oh, this is easy, but this is a lot. So it's a good balance, because like once you become a rogue and you have the abilities, then it's easy. You're like, I can do this, this, and this. Boom, done. You know, getting to that point is always the challenge. So when you're building your Druid, and I know a lot of people like ability scores, and a lot of people like feats. You know, I'm doing some new things, and I did it for Realms 2, which I give all the players an extra feat at level 1. Just give it to them. Because why not? It adds flavor, right? I actually forgot to tell them initially, but I have since then reminded myself and them to add that. But it was something that I added, right? It was something additional flavor to, because feats are great. And then you also like, I need 20 wisdom because that's my spell modifier, right? So like you have to take at least, you know, level 4 to bump wisdom, and if you didn't roll at least a 16, then you have to do it again at level 8, so then you only have 3 or 4 feats. But let's talk about feats. So once your ability scores are where you want them to be, enough dex, con, wisdom, whatever, what feats really fit Druid? And I know there's different play styles and things, but are there any feats specifically that works really well with Druid?
Well, to me, it really depends on the game you're playing. It depends on like your DM, you know, really, and just kind of like the environment that your Druid is in. For me, I needed Warcaster. It was a must. And
because it's concentration, right? It helps you get advantage on con saves, and most of your spells are cons. So like, that makes complete sense.
We are a very kind of saving throw magic class. Let's see. I wouldn't necessarily, depending on if you do go the Moon Druid route, maybe what's that feat called? Resilience, to give you an extra HP bump if you're trying.
Oh, that's
if
tough.
You're trying to be. Is it tough?
Tough gives you 2 points every level.
Okay.
Yeah. So you get an extra 40 at the end.
That would be good for a Moon Druid, but just a Druid in general. Yeah, I just have to say, in my own experience, Warcaster, just because, like as you said, we are a very concentration kind of based class, and Warcaster helps you keep that concentration after being hit or so. So I would say Warcaster.
Cool. And then thinking about again, constantly building this Druid, you have some class and subclass options, and you have feat options, and your ability scores. And I know I teased multi-classing a little bit. Wisdom is a funny thing because there's not a lot of other classes that need wisdom specifically. But what are some good multi-classing options with Druid? I know a lot of people say Ranger because it's still very land-based and very nature-based, but what about anything else?
I would say, I believe the Cleric is wisdom-based.
Yes, I believe you're right.
I believe they are. I think a Druid Cleric mix could be really interesting, really fun, because it kind of, depending on how someone plays, like for both like the RP side of it, being one with nature, but still having like a sort of god kind of that you kind of serve, whether it's like a god of nature or what have you. What else? What else is kind of like a wisdom-based class? And even depending on the Druid, it doesn't exactly have to be, wisdom, the other subclass. It could be, another interesting mix. Like I really do like the barbarian Druid hybrid.
It was really fun to play that because and that's like traditionally when you think about multi-classing, that's probably the best one. I mean, Cleric does work because it's wisdom based and everything else. Sometimes Monk, I think Monk is also wisdom based, but Monk and Druid are just so different that it just, maybe you're a Monk of the Woods, and I don't know, like it just RP wise it just doesn't really fit. But I mean, I definitely agree that the barbarians, especially the barbarian moon druid specifically, because if your barbarian is a tank, moon druid is just extra pool of hate HP, and your rage carries over, so you can rage and then shift, and you're taking half damage. That's what I did too, because I was a totem bear. So now I'm a dire bear that takes half damage except for psychic. I was barely a barbarian because the encounters weren't built really for that much damage output. But yeah, I mean there's a lot of fun combinations, I think, and you can always just do whatever you want. And I know, which kind of leads into the next thing, is what Wizard of the Coast has talked about doing is stop the restriction with races having hard dex or strength or whatever ability score modifiers. But so instead of like you're a Goliath, you might get a +1 strength and then like a +1 and something else, but it's your choice, which opens up, Goliath wizards or Goliath, I don't know, warlocks or something. Then you can kind of mix and match instead of I gotta be a high elf ranger because I get all these things for ranger. If I don't do that, then I'm gonna suck as a ranger, right? So like trying to make things more appealing. But so we know you were a half elf. Druid. What are some other fun combinations that you'd want to try as a druid?
I have thought about this. Just kind of my aesthetic. I normally go for something that's more like, I really don't want to say like I go for something like beautiful or elegant or whatever, but just my aesthetic. I try to have a certain look that I kind of want to be presented as, but I do like Dragonborn. Dragonborn are fun. I think I've played like maybe 2 or 3 Dragonborn so far.
You played Dragonborn Druid before?
No, not a Druid. I think it was like a monk and something else. I think Tabaxis are really cool. I mean, who doesn't like cats? I mean, honestly. To be kind of like that feral and agile and kind of like get to something place really high, and then you can rain down hell on whatever is down below.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably things like that. Something that is both beefy but yet also has that kind of agile move. Because when I do kind of think of combat, which I love, I normally think of kind of like an agile type character. I am still moving towards like more like hefty, beefy people, but just naturally it would be more agile. So those two I would probably like to try.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was looking at the races before, and like again we talk about it, like Tortle, for example, you get a +1 whiz, but you get +2 strength, which maybe you need, maybe you don't, but then it's fun, you're a turtle, right? So then that kind of fits that mode, right, where you're kind of part of that. Centaur is also, but then you get into this form where you are already a half of a beast, and then you're going to turn into something else, which is kind of a fun mechanic when you think about it.
Interesting.
I was trying to think. There was 2 other ones that I wanted to be. Lianen, the lion folk druid. I think that would be really awesome because you are the king of the land, right? And you have that thing, but now you are this crossbreed of a bipedal creature and a lion, and you can turn into other stuff. Like I had a Lianen shepherd druid that I had built, which just makes sense, right? You're like the shepherd of all these creatures. You're like, oh.
You have so many builds.
88 currently.
80. Oh, last time I talked to you was 87.
Well, I actually cleared a lot of them out because some of them were doubles, and now I have more. But yeah, it's always something new. I also have a satyr druid as well, but that's a little weird.
Yeah, that's when things get wonky. Like when you're kind of somewhat of already kind of like a beast, but you can then turn into beast. That's when like things get like interestingly weird.
It's like, this is a bear. He's actually a druid. Yes, let me turn into my normal form, and you're automatically thinking like elf. And you're like, oh shit, he's a lion. Like, wait.
And don't even get me started about like werebears and were things too being druids. That's like a whole another level of just like, what the hell?
Absolutely.
So,
So we have 30 seconds left. So in 30 seconds, what is your favorite druid spell and why?
Oh geez. That's a question. My favorite Druid spell and why? That's a you just sprung that one on me. I'm gonna say it's between two. It's between two. One is like a hefty attack, and one is protection.
Call
I'm
lightning
gonna
and
I'm gonna go with absorb elements because it can
that's a good one.
save your life. It is the only reaction spell that we druids get naturally.
Yeah.
Um, and basically, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, whenever you get attacked by an element, a natural element like frosts, poison, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
you can absorb that into yourself, and you become resistant to it until the end of your next turn. So, and not only that, when you absorb it, when you do a melee attack, you can use that same elemental power to attack the creature that hurt you with it, basically. So that one's really good just because, in my experience, I have been hit with some really, really hard elemental hits. So me having that first level spell has saved me from dropping countless times. So
Absolutely.
absorb
Absolutely.
elements.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure. GW, where can people find you?
Here on Fable 42, you can also find me on IG and Twitter under GW005. That's two B's and two zeros. And you can also find me, my voice, on Clarion Dawn, which is a sci-fi audio podcast I've been doing with some really awesome voice talent. You can check us out at clariondawn.com, or you can go to any of your favorite podcast platforms and search us there.
Well, thank you, sir. This is Quests and Answers, where we went on a quest to find your answers. We talked about the Druid class for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. If you liked what you watched, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And I am Chris Solo, and you can find me at DM Chris Solo on all social medias. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time. And also, down below in the comments, please let us know what your favorite Druid classes are and what kind of mixes you like to kind of give me and the rest of us ideas. And we'll be happy to comment and kind of have a conversation about it.
Yes, next time. See you guys later.